The Apple Car was one of those things that I personally believed would never see the light of day. As much as I'd really wanted to see a genuine iPad on wheels, I never really believed that the tech giant would be able to pull off such a bold move into the automotive sector. It's not an easy thing making cars, and apart from Tesla, it has proved very hard for companies to launch into automaking because of the technical complexity and manufacturing facilities required to produce such a wide range of components that go into making a modern car. And so it comes to pass that the most famous piece of Apple vaporware finally evaporates into thin air. After a decade of hints and rumours, the project bites the dust as Apple redirects its research towards generative AI instead. And in similar news, legacy British luxury automaker Aston Martin has announced it is delaying its push into EVs, which is awesome news for petrolheads like me, who hope that brands like Aston will continue making their iconic sports cars for many decades to come. Welcome back to MGuy, British engineer and lawyer turned Sydney YouTuber. Please be sure to like, share and subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment down below, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter X. None of this is coincidental. Both decisions are driven by the incontrovertible fact that demand for electric vehicles has, like Apple's vaporware, simply evaporated. The early adopters have bought their Teslas, the fleets have done their bit, and now the rest of the population just isn't interested. Before the Apple story, let's take a look at Aston Martin, the legendary British sports car maker with its iconic links to the James Bond movie series, which has indicated it is hedging its bets on electrification. Drivers don't want electric cars, Aston Martin admits. Owner blames weak demand as luxury car maker delays EV debut. Aston Martin has delayed the launch of its first electric car as the luxury marque's chairman admitted that drivers still want the sports car smell, feel and noise of a petrol engine. The luxury car maker had originally aimed to launch an electric four-wheel drive brand Tourer as soon as next year, but will now hold off until 2026. Lawrence Stroll, Aston's executive chairman and biggest shareholder, blamed weak demand for higher-priced battery electric vehicles, BEVs, for the delay. The Canadian billionaire said all our BEV technologies are in place, everything is in place. The only thing that isn't in place is the consumer demand at this early stage. Mr. Stroll added that drivers outside of cities still wanted the experience of driving a petrol-powered sports car. He said, "What we are feeling is that there are people that still want some electrification to drive around the city for 5 or 10 or 15 miles, but still have the sports car smell and feel and noise when you get onto the auto routes." Aston Martin will use hybrid cars, which use both battery and internal combustion engines, as a bridge to fully electric models for now, Mr. Stroll said. The company has already launched its first plug-in hybrid supercar, the Valhalla, and has announced plans to launch plug-in versions of the Vantage, DB12, DBS and DBX models as well. Mr. Stroll is the latest car executive to express caution about the speed of the switch to EVs amid a slowdown in sales. The electric Hyundai Ioniq 5N, which mimics the sound of an internal combustion engine and even fakes a paddle-shifted transmission, is the clearest admission that electric cars lack the involvement that sports car drivers want, and this is reflected in Aston's comments about battery electric vehicles. "We do believe it will be there in the future. It's not going away. We just think there's a slight delay to the project. That's why we think the hybrid is going to have a very long life, particularly for a company like us. It's about delivering thrills and excitement in the driving experience. So before we get to the BEVs, we will have a portfolio of PHEVs, plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, and a continuation, of course, of our combustion engine." Mr. Stroll's emphasis on the experience of driving a petrol-fueled car versus a battery vehicle highlights the concerns among sports car makers about whether quiet electric engines will hold the same appeal with motorists. Ferrari has patented a method of reproducing the sound of its high-performance petrol and diesel engines as its electric models are revved up. Yes, and it's utterly ridiculous, and Ferrari has never made a diesel either as far as I'm aware. Just as fake as the Ioniq, the Ferrari method injects signals into the electric motors to mimic the sound of a V8 or V12, but you could just as easily play a sound file of Taylor Swift through it. And really, let me ask you, which would you buy? A Ferrari 812 with its glorious howling mechanical V12, or some battery electric thing that just plays you the sound of that V12? Ferrari must be nuts. And of course, the slowdown in EV demand has bitten Apple as well. Apple cancels decade-long electric car project, source says. February 27, Reuters. Apple has cancelled work on its electric car, a source familiar with the matter told Reuters on Tuesday, a decade after the iPhone maker kicked off the project. The move draws the curtain on a plan that would have helped Apple break out into a new industry and potentially replicate the success of the iPhone. The project had seen uneven progress throughout its life, and its end comes as global automakers cut back their investments in electric vehicles, whose demand has dropped significantly. Several employees working on the project will be shifted to the company's artificial intelligence AI division, according to Bloomberg News, which first reported the development. Apple declined to comment. If it is true, Apple will put more focus on Gen AI, and that should give investors more optimism about the company's efforts and ability to compete at a platform level on AI, said Ben Badgerin, CEO of consulting firm Creative Strategies. Making cars is extremely hard. When you look at the sheer range of parts and components that must be sourced or manufactured, it would be daunting even for a company like Apple to pivot into making cars. And in a related story, BMW indicates it is investing in hydrogen, in yet another blow to the electric evangelists. BMW's iX5 signals the company's push for hydrogen. You won't see it on showroom floors, but BMW is putting faith in its new SUV. Hydrogen-powered cars constitute a drop in the world's ocean of 1.47 billion cars. The same goes for renewable green hydrogen fuel, or any infrastructure to effectively deliver it to vehicles or power their factories. But despite rampant skepticism in some corners, BMW is among the automakers and policymakers convinced that our lightest atomic element holds a key to achieving carbon neutrality for our personal cars, commercial trucks, and the energy grid itself. The Bavarian automaker has launched a pilot fleet of iX5 hydrogen SUVs in South Africa, expanding a world tour for the iX5 that kicked off in Antwerp, Belgium. Billed as the world's most powerful fuel cell vehicle, the iX5 is based on the X5, which has an internal combustion engine and is among BMW's best-selling models. The iX5 eschews a combustion engine in favour of a 125 kilowatt, 170 horsepower fuel cell stack. That stack powers an electric drive unit using BMW's fifth-generation eDrive technology at the rear axle. Below the X5's floor, a massive pair of carbon fibre reinforced plastic tanks hold 6 kilograms of hydrogen, pressurized at a hydrogen industry standard of 700 bars, 70,000 kilopascals. You know, it seems that a hell of a lot of automakers are reaching the obvious conclusion that electric isn't the answer. All I hope is that the legendary brands like Aston, Alfa, Ferrari and Maserati work this out and keep developing and producing their ICE engines before it's too late.